All right, welcome to the Verify Stage monthly field sync. So we restructured this meeting a little bit. We added a new kind of agenda template so that we started with the updates from the field, and then we'll go ahead and go through some delivery updates for the upcoming milestone. So in our last meeting, we went through structurally that this meeting didn't have a lot of direction or a lot of structure. So we're adding these standing topics to afford us some opportunity to have some discussion about some of the needs from customer success. So what we hope to have is some topics that customer success needs so that it is an input into our milestone planning across the Verify stage. So strategically, we're having this at the beginning of the month so that if we need to shuffle some stuff in our milestone planning, we can do that. So diving on in, I know that there isn't anything hydrated in our agenda, so I'm happy to type as y'all tell us if there's anything that you've heard from needs. And I know that there was a note on here that said don't talk or list specific customer names. I would say go ahead and list customer names. We'll just mark this as a private conversation and then share internally.
Hey, morning all. Sorry I was a little late. I think I've got the first one, but I misplaced it under delivery updates, so my apologies. And Christoph has got one as well. It follows on, Jackie, with your update, your delivery update around pipeline execution and that group's focus on infra-dev and scalability issues. I started an issue in the product group late last Friday, asking the product team how we can improve visibility and awareness of these important efforts that your teams are making. I had a customer come back to me and express some disappointment in the sort of features and functions that were included in one of our most recent releases. And it turned out there was a pretty low degree of awareness of all of the, like linear query and database scalability efforts and CI pipeline abuse efforts that we were making. So I was curious if there was thoughts from the group here, CS or product, on how to go about raising that level of visibility.
So I was interested, I saw this issue that you posted because first we had some direction page updates on our shift to scalability, and we had a category direction where we created a new direction page on CI scaling, and we posted that in customer success and promoted that. So I'm not exactly sure 100% on how we can engage further other than like multimodal communication, doing the category page walkthroughs and promoting that in our typical channels. And of course, these syncs and communicating those changes. I think given that we had the turnover in the CIPM, that may have had a little bit of a shakeup in the normal communication channel. So barring that change, I feel like that might be a heavy hitting problem, given that one of the biggest categories that were impacted by the rapid actions is continuous integration, formerly known as continuous integration, now pipeline execution. Like both the rapid action on pipeline abuse and the database priorities that happened in 13.11, 13.12 shifted the teams to rapid actions. So we did direction page updates and we promoted those in the customer success channels on two different kind of escalation channels. So we can try to promote that also to CS leadership so that they can communicate that to you further, maybe in your one-on-one. So that's another channel that could be helpful. I mean, do you have any other ideas?
No, those are great points, and thank you for emphasizing that. I do recall the the note that was put in the customer success channel. I think it's important to remember that we're not the only conduit, by which customers receive information, nor do all of our customers get customer success representatives like a TAM, right? And in interacting with this customer champion, that's really like a very GitLab first mindset, right? That is very plugged into nearly everything we do. And I would say, I want to think optimistically, probably does review our category direction pages with some regularity. They were totally unaware of these efforts. So, I'm fine to wear part of that and say, all right, as a TAM, and I will take that back to the broader CS organization, we need to make sure that we are cross-promoting these things that you're sharing with us with customers. I can't actually recall whether I'd shared the CI pipeline abuse category effort or any other sort of category direction updates on InfraDev with this customer specifically. I sincerely doubt I've done with any other customers. And I don't know that that would be true or false of my peers as well. I think what I'm getting at is and I don't know if it's like the format or if it's the cadence or if it's something else about our release posts that we publish monthly. That feels to me like the source of truth that our customers are depending upon to understand what we're releasing. And I think by not including some write-up on the scalability and infrastructure efforts we're making in our release posts, which is, arguably, in some respects, not that relevant to self-managed customers, not entirely irrelevant in any case, right? But a lot of it's quite .com specific, or it might read that way initially, even if benefits would be felt by some of these like linear query efforts we're making by self-managed customers. If it's the release posts that people are looking at and not the category direction page, well, we should ask why. Maybe it's a change we can make the category direction pages to make them a bit more visual and a bit more like perusing a newspaper. I'm not really sure if it's a UX question, really, in my mind.
Okay, I hear you. I'll take this back to my team internally, given that we're prioritizing a lot of InfraDev and SaaS first thoughts. As far as when we start to make a swing toward over indexing on like .com audiences and catering to that, this might just be, I want us to not lose sight that, the release post will be the conduit by which we communicate most of our information, given that that's how we package our releases today.
And I think this is something I'm happy to take the action to bring to Farnoosh as well. Like from a release post communication standpoint, do we know where our customers are reading? Because it was very clear, like I was very well aware of all these efforts. So kudos to the product team for helping me be aware of all the things we're doing. But I'm sort of, in part, that's what I'm paid to do. Our customer was not, and I was really surprised by that. It really kind of caught me deer in the headlights.
And also on like the rapid action efforts, all of those issues are listed as confidential because there are lots of vulnerabilities. There's lots of things that nefarious actors can come in there and exploit to their advantage if they come in and abuse our system. So like pipeline abuse, right? So we don't necessarily want to promote that we're working on some of that stuff publicly as well. So I think that's where like ultra transparency on pipeline abuse prevention is a fine line to toe. We can be transparent, but not like linking and cross-linking these issues. So
yeah, I don't think the specifics of what we're doing is that relevant. I think it's more just about being transparent about the engineering and product sort of capacity that we've dedicated to these efforts.
Yeah, but I'm saying that it's just they're published in the normal mechanisms that they have been. Like as soon as we dedicated all of those teammates, we created the category direction page. We dedicated on the category direction page says like 20% of our team has been shifted. So we can continue to iterate on how to vocalize and how to continue to promote and cross-reference and make sure people are seeing that kind of information. I want to make sure that we get through the rest of the agenda, but noted. Let's move on to make sure that we
Cool.
hear the rest of the points.
Darren, you had a couple of points, but if we're moving on to the subject, you and I can async.
Yeah, we can do async now.
Cool.
Oh no, I mean I just mean like to get to point 3 and 4. We can.
Okay. I was just curious, Jamie. What was it in this particular case? What was the customer's expectation in terms of new features and capabilities each month? Are they expecting exciting new features, or have they come to sort of expect a bunch of new capabilities each month?
The context in this conversation was really like exciting Microsoft being new functionality, right? What's going to keep us kind of an innovative, fast-moving, market-leading company? And they felt as though 13.12 was not that. I don't know on what objective basis you could really, say like, that release really met the bar, or that one didn't. I think every individual PM has an idea of kind of like the weight throughput that their team can produce on a release cadence, on a monthly cadence. I found it really hard to be objective about, how big a release is or how great a release was. Like, it's a very subjective thing. And I wasn't really sure what objective inputs I could provide product to say, well, we fell short on this particular aspect. Tricky.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then my second point, I'm the release post manager for 14.0. So Jamie, I guess once you raise that feedback to Fanusha, I'll be curious for me to see what she says. I just, generally speaking, I had a really quick idea about the performance and availability point. I have an open MR right now in terms of just things we're doing for Runner. And I was just, maybe it's not the right thing to do given that we have less marketing folks, but maybe we should think about, from the product leadership standpoint, maybe an ongoing performance and availability specific blog post kind of like series. And I know it's going to be kind of hard saying, I know you need a title then to say, well, this work here is potentially meaning you're seeing less innovation each month, but maybe if we had the series, people are aware that we're doing things. I don't know, this is a rough idea that came off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed, like, I think even from a self-managed context where you might not be the direct benefactor of like a performance improvement to .com or like a Kubernetes migration, I do think that there's a pretty high degree of sympathy in our customer base, this understanding of technical debt, right? Maybe it's not right for me to color like CI pipeline abuse as technical debt, but the need to address things that are not new features, things that are ancillary to like new product functionality, a shiny new thing. It's really important as a company and as a SaaS provider to address those. And I feel like talking about those, I love the idea of a blog post. I think that'd be, I know that's like, we're splitting hairs between like a category direction page. Like I saw Tim Rizzi had written kind of like a letter to, letter from the editor style in his category. I thought that was really fun. It's kind of like a more informal tone, like a blog post. Maybe it's just an exercise in better communicating when those category changes, the category direction pages are updated, driving people to those, right? Like, I think I'd love to just see like a high level survey of like, where do you look for information about what we're doing? I go to that category direction section all the time. I don't know that if our customers do or not. Anyway, it's already monopolized the agenda.
Yeah, well, like maybe I can add. I just wanted to, before we move to another topic, just sort of as an alternative things viewed at the same question. Actually, it's interesting because I could use the whole rapid action approach for the 13.12 release with a customer who expressed exactly opposite. In this case, it wasn't related to CI/CD. It wasn't related to verify stage. It was more related to the create stage. So I have a customer, a large bank, that was basically saying, "Hey, we love all the new features you're delivering, but we've been experiencing a number of issues with what we consider a core value or not value of a core capability of GitLab, storing code, committing code." And they were basically, their request was, "Hey, can you stop delivering new features and focus on fixing some of the performance and the core capabilities?" And the whole communication that, yes, we do that. Sometimes we stop and go back and look at the performance, infrastructure topics, was actually quite important and relevant. So I think sort of I was trying to use this to say that the different customers want to see different things in releases. Somebody wants to have shiny new features. Somebody wants to see, doesn't really want any new shiny features. They really want us to focus on performance and scalability and the core capabilities. But I would agree that yeah, communicating this clearly at the direction would be a great way to go. Maybe, I don't know, something that I use a lot myself when I'm looking at the new release. I use the upcoming releases link, and that usually the one I posted in the chat, and that usually helps me understand what actually is coming in the next release. And I think that might be also a nice way for customers to understand what we're working on. I think we can go to the next topic, the one raised by Christoph.
Thanks, Vladimir. I was actually looking at the upcoming releases. thanks to you sharing your link. Anyway, no, it's less of a topic and rather confirmation. I believe more focused on Darren as well, because I've got lately, and it might be coincident, but more and more customers asking around what essentially can call enterprise management for runners, because they're scaling the number of runners, and it's becoming hard for the admins to maintain and to keep an eye on. Even today, I got a meeting, and it's essentially why I got triggered by putting it in as a confirmation as well. Jobs that get stuck just because they think that the runners are busy, because I have a set of runners that are always there, and they have a hard time looking whether it's because no runners are available or something else is going on. And so rather confirmation there, because I saw your vision, I believe it was called the vision for runners that we discussed a while back, a couple of iterations ago, and I think that fitted in very nicely. And I see that you have highlighted the epic there as well. So I'm guessing that the answer is already there.
Christoph, the answer is maybe so. I'm gonna give everyone on the call homework. So Christoph, specific to the monitoring question, let's make sure we get as much details from that specific customer in terms of what are they leveraging any of our existing Grafana and Prometheus monitoring. And the reason is we may be able to help them solve that initial problem, current problem with the current monitoring. With that said, for everyone else, and for you as well, Christoph, look at the epic, and under the epic, there are a couple of things. There is an admin view sub-epic, and there's also a monitoring epic. Drill into that. If you see a use case that you're hearing from your customers that's not covered, that's added to the right place, and we'll figure it out afterwards. So the homework is, yes, we have a vision, but we may not have captured all of the use cases. So if you're hearing something, let's capture it. If we can solve it with the existing monitoring, let's see if we can solve it fast with the existing monitoring. And then really fast in terms of where we're at. We were hoping to go faster with the new views. The idea was clean up the admin view, figure out the monitoring strategy. Today it's Grafana and Prometheus, and obviously that means customers have to do a lot of work on their own to set that up. And the idea was, if we figure out the admin view, do we simplify the monitoring? We don't know yet. We're moving a little bit more slowly on the admin view than we had hoped, because we had some changes in the org, but our front-end team is working on some foundational stuff. So right now it's kind of slow. Hopefully in the next few releases, it will speed up. So, but yeah, tons of work to do there. I just don't know if any of the specific, how should I say, pain points customers are having right now, we will quickly solve, in the next release, or maybe we can solve it right now.
Yeah, and to your point, that's essentially what I highlighted today to them as well, that you can use the Prometheus setup and put potentially Thanos on top of it, and Grafana, depending on how much runners that you have as well. And the pushback there was exactly that, that they have a lot of runners, and so you need to set it up for each runner, and it's a lot of work from their end, which makes sense. And I added our run books link to that as well, because we have a lot of examples there on monitoring, on how we're setting up our monitoring. And that was a first feedback for them already.
I will add one MR for other folks, for other homework as well for the rest of the team, because I need help on this. It's not perfect. It doesn't solve the problem of having to set up Prometheus, for each of the runners. But in the short term, let me just dump it in here. Oh gosh, I missed a section of the agenda. So if everyone could, that's interested in this, weigh in, lean in on this MR here. This MR was, the idea was if we can quickly document a quick getting started guide for setting up runners at scale. And in addition, in that getting started guide, have a section on monitoring. Again, not saying it's going to be perfect on day one, but at least, yeah, we know it's painful right now with all of the runners, but maybe a simple, because right now, if you point them to the run book, Christoph, I imagine if they haven't seen this before, the run book is like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. So take a look at the MR, weigh in, see if we can at least get them to something they could use with the MR, if we can actually get it moving and published, and then we'll certainly circle back on the admin view feature set to see if we can simplify all this.
Yeah, and for sure we'll point to the Epic directly to the customer as well as a response to their question, and ask feedback on their side as well. Thanks.
Okay, well, with 3 minutes left, I just wanted to give you a couple pointers to some delivery updates. In 14.1, we're giving a primary focus to CI minutes and InfraDev issues. The focus here is to provide a good foundation for this ROI mechanism. So in order to really empower users to see a return on investment, they have to have a way to like track that return on investment. And the big method there is with CI minutes. So we'll be improving that measurability there in this release. And then of course, we've had a backlog of S2 issues, and we need to deliver those to improve that scalability mechanism. And then of course, I have this category for pipeline abuse that I'm hoping to stand up, and that will be delivering on a couple of different feature sets, including credit card validation and helping establish a team around the pipeline validation service. I'll pass it over to Dove.
Yeah, so following the delivery update in 14.1, obviously we do have a planning issue that you can go and see what are all the issues that are scheduled for this iteration. Still draft. I probably have less than what is planned, and there will be some carryover, but probably the most interesting one is one of the most popular requests that we have from our user, which is allow need to refer to a job at the same stage. I'm sure you're all familiar with the needs keyword, where you can reference to another job. So a job will depend on another job to running outside of the context of stages. There was one limitation that you cannot, a job cannot need a job that is in the same stage. So job needs to be in different stages. So in this release, we are planning to implement and basically remove this limitation. And this is a big thing, because it's a major change to the way our customer used to work with. Our customer knows that we have like stages and they need to define stages, but with that, they will not need to define any stages at all. So there will be stages behind the scene. There are always stages behind the scene for the user themselves. They won't need to like do this overhead about like, let's create a stage that put all the jobs that we need to run first and then the second. They can just like list the whole pipeline with all jobs and just add links dependencies between them. This is very similar to how GitHub Action is working, by the way. They don't have any concept of stages. And yeah, and like, because it's a big thing, we may end up releasing it in 14.2, but you know, we are working on that for like a couple of iterations already. So if not in 14.1, I do expect, if there will be no other surprises, to release it in 14.2.
And then James is on PTO right now. So Darren, do you want to say anything for 14.1?
Yeah, for 14.1 for run, I think what's going in terms of runner core, more than likely sort of like one runner core being, you know, the distribution, right? The runner binary or Docker image that we distribute. I think the big thing potentially is going to show up in 14.1 that we're moving from 14.0. Because as of right now, I don't think it will ship to 14.0. Is support for Power 9 architecture, PPC 64LE. If things work out, we might be able to get it in 14.0, but more than likely that's a 14.1 deliverable. The other thing that we really need to wrap up and close the books on in 14.1, it's kind of a cross-stage issue between runner and CI, which is, this is probably Jamie's, one of Jamie's favorite issues. It's the variable inside of a variable issue. We have it right now behind the feature flag. And I guess this is speaking back to Jamie's first point. We would have shipped it by now. We would have removed the feature flag by now, but we were focused on some of the other scaling work. So my hope is that we can get the core engineers refocused on the last bit of testing and get that wrapped up in 14.1. So that's kind of the two big things. We have one stretch goal for runner core in potentially for 14.1. It's the stick queue runners MVC. It's the whole issue that's been around for quite a few years with customers asking for the ability to specify that all jobs in a pipeline execute in a single runner. And it's been around for a while. It's gone through multiple iterations of discussions. It's kind of one of those issues where, you know, you don't want to touch with a 20-foot pole kind of a thing. If we get past some of our capacity constraints for the scaling work, then that's one we want to tackle as well. But that's potentially, of all the three things I just talked about, the variable inside other variable, the Power 9 architecture support, I know it was PPC 64LE, the sticky one is just probably the stretch goal, really the stretch goal for 14.1 in terms of runner core. And there are a couple other, I'm not going to list them here, a couple other like Kubernetes related issues that we're working on as well. That's still important, but you know, in terms of just big things, those are the ones I would call out. And it's really fast. As we're talking about the category direction page, maybe this is a topic for next time. One of the things that I have struggled with on the runner side of things is there's only so much you can put on that category direction page without it becoming overwhelming, right? There's so many, like for example, some of our enterprise customers, they're interested in Windows features. And we've got a number of Windows features we're working on. Some folks are interested in Kubernetes features for runner core. And so trying to balance all those needs and communicate, hey, here's all the things that are happening. So sometimes when you look at the direction page, it's really, how should I say it, a subjective choice, if you will, from the PM to decide kind of what should get on that page versus some other things, right? So.
Well, Darren, that's something that we can definitely discuss about actually splitting runner into different categories and having direction pages for each segment of runner. Given that you have such a specialized division.
Yeah, I think maybe that's one way to do it. Or I think we could potentially simply, as you mentioned that, like for runner core, maybe we just create a view so that you link and you can say, here are the things, besides the things that we want to highlight, here are the things that are on a core and links you to a view, right? Maybe we can just create views in the issues, in the actual project issues that folks can link to. So, you know, just highlight a few things, because you don't necessarily want to reproduce all of the content that's already in the issues. You know what I mean?
Sure. Okay. Anything else? Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. This was super. Jamie, I may ping you a little bit more to talk to you about the first item, so that we don't repeat that in the future.
Would love to. Thanks.
Okay,
Appreciate
awesome.
the time.
All right. Thank you all. Bye.